Well, it's good to be 1-0. I'm proud of our team the other night. Obviously, the morning of the game, met with them and told them that at the end of the night, if somebody were to ask me, what would be the most important things that could show up in order for you to win this game, and I told the guys, if we play fast, if we're physical, if our level of conditioning shows up in the fourth quarter, we've got good discipline. I said, that's when I know it'll be a great night. And if you look back and you evaluate the game, you watch the tape, and you say, you know what, those things showed up. And had 5 penalties, won the first play of the game. We had 5 penalties. So the guys did a good job of from a discipline standpoint, of playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. We played fast. We felt like we had an edge conditioning-wise late in the game. And I thought we were physical to rush for, 325 yards. Says a lot about our physicality up front. I think everybody in the building, everybody watching on TV, everybody knew that we were going to run the ball there at the end of the game, and I was proud of our offensive linemen to step up to that challenge, knowing that that's the kind of game we were playing at that point, and I was proud of those guys to be able to do that. And defensively, I can't give the defense enough credit. They were consistent from start to finish. I'm happy for that group of guys. There's a lot of seniors on that side of the ball, and they were tired of hearing about a year ago, and they struggled a year ago, and they played the game for 4 quarters like they had a chip on their shoulder to hold that team to 77 yards rushing. And if you ask our guys, certainly, a big portion of that 77 yards was on their final drive of the game. So our defense was outstanding. They at the beginning of the game, when offense was slow to start and struggled, the defense, they accepted the challenge, and they were great keeping us in the game until we kind of got untracked a little bit midway through the second quarter. So it's great to get a win. Great to get a win on the road. And I'm proud of our guys. I think the confidence level will just increase, and everybody's mindset is back to work. That's behind us. Let's go back to work.
Coach, when you look at the defensive film at the 3 different levels of the defense, were all of them very solid, or was there one particular part of the defense that really stood out to you?
They were all solid. I love watching the tape defensively, and you see that many hats around the ball. It's something Coach Doust preaches all the time. We want to see at least 7 hats in the frame. When you're watching the film and you're able to slow it down at the end of the play, seeing at least 7 hats getting to the ball, and our guys were flying around, playing fast, playing physical, having fun, playing the game. And, that was something that was there from start to finish. And, I'm very proud of all groups, D-line, linebacker, secondary, all those guys were very consistent.
And the offensive line, was that a bit of a surprise to you, how much or how successful they were and how you were able to run the ball?
No, it wasn't, because Coach Devan's done a great job with that group of guys. And yes, it was a challenge. You have 3 guys in the middle of your offensive line. The left guard, Alex Jaw, started for the first time. The right guard, Pat Maloney, started for the first time. And Vinny Palizzetti took his first snap at center. So the preparation was there. Those 2 guys took a ton of reps in training camp. But Coach Devan's done a great job preparing those guys. It was great, from a game plan standpoint. The running game that we had on the playlist for this game was very good for that group of guys. Coach Joey Lynch and Coach Devan did a great job with that, and I'm proud of them because it gives those guys a lot of confidence, and now they're no longer a young player that hasn't started a game yet, so it's good to have that behind them now.
Now, I know you can't speak on specific recruits or verbal commits, but were you able – I know you've gotten some commits from down south. Were there some prospects that were able to watch this game?
Sure. It's good to get some feedback from those guys through social media, and they were watching. That's what you want to hear when you have some interaction with those guys, and absolutely it's a chance for us to go to that area and play good football and have those guys have an opportunity to see the kind of excitement and enthusiasm and visualize themselves being at Ball State.
When you met with your coaching staff and you determined what geographic areas you guys are going to target in recruiting, why did you feel maybe Georgia and Alabama were good fits for Ball State?
Well, I just think if you look at the overall number of players that just come from those areas, and plus the connection that Coach Jackson has, he still has a residence in the Atlanta area. He played for the Atlanta Falcons, played in the SEC, so he's got some ties in that area, and it's just a good fit for us because there's a lot of players in that area, and each and every year when you look at it and you look at, you start studying guys, you start looking at tape, there's more and more prospects from that area. So that's one of the big reasons why, and because we have a connection.
Coach, I was curious. You talked about the defense only giving up 77 yards on the ground. Did you guys have a goal that we weren't going to give up 100 yards or something like that? In other words, did the defense exceed expectations there? Were you, Tom talked about the O-line surprising you. Were you surprised with that aspect of the game?
I'm not a big guy that goes into a game and sets out the week and says we have to hold them to under 100 yards. We have to rush for this. The goal is just simply to win. And whatever formula works that night, because you go into a game with a game plan and there's things that unfold when the game starts, and you have to be willing to make in-game adjustments. And the most important thing is to whatever's working for you that night, offense, defense, special teams, you have to adjust in order to give your team a chance to win. And that's what I'm the most proud of about our staff and about our team, is that formula worked for us the other night. We overcame early adversity, and we talk about every day in practice, we talk about every time we have a meeting that adversity is going to present itself. We just didn't know it was going to be the third play of the game with a pick six. It's not the way you want to start, but our guys stuck together. There was no on the sideline. Guys were every bit as into it as they were before, saying they got each other's back. And, there wasn't a goal going into the game. We got to hold them. We just want to play good, fundamentally sound, fast effort on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what we were able to do. Guys are flying around. Guys are having fun. Guys stepped up and made plays that, who knows if that was thought of before that game, happened. But and then you mentioned the offensive line. The defensive effort from start to finish was very consistent. And guys were good in terms of flying to the ball like we always preach. And then offensively, yeah, you can say was it a surprise? I'm never going to say that I think it's a surprise, because our guys work hard. They expect that. We go out and we rep, run game in practice. We expect to be able to have success, and we try to fit our scheme that, put a scheme in place and a game plan in place that fits our players, and that's what we were able to do.
Sure. And then going back to the offensive side, you guys ran the ball a lot, and it wasn't just, in the second half you started picking up those big gains, 10, 12, 14 yards. But early on, too, there were some runs that got stuffed. It seemed like you kept running. Is that something we're going to see a lot moving forward, just an emphasis on the run game and trying to control that aspect of the game?
Well, you always want to be able to run the ball, but like I said, Riley got off to a slow start the other night. He had 2 interceptions early in that game, and we wanted to settle him down. No better way to do that than get going running game-wise, and then when things started going well, you're crazy if you go away from that. So that was just a good recipe and a good formula for us the other night, so we stuck to it. And our offensive linemen they're chomping at the bit. You could see the look in their eyes that they wanted the challenge. They wanted it to be placed on their back. And then you see the conditioning factor that took over in the second half. Our guys felt good. They felt fresh, and we felt like we had an edge, so we just kept going with it.
Sure. And then with Riley, you've mentioned it a couple times, the adversity early. Mm-hmm. I know there were 2 or 3 dropped passes that seemed to keep him from getting in rhythm too. But since you've gone back and looked at the tape, just overall his performance, to come back and play better in the second half, how do you feel about it?
No question he did. I'm proud of him, because that's not fun. When you throw 2 interceptions early like that, especially when it's the first game of the season and you're so excited, it can deflate you a little bit. But he kind of stayed the course, continued to communicate with him on the sideline, relax, just that's over with. We'll be just fine here. So I'm proud of him that he was able to just continue to stay the course, regroup, and then in the second half he was 7 for 8 in the second half, and he did his job, of getting us, kind of running the show. And as I told him, I tell all the quarterbacks, hey, you're going to be judged whether you lead your team to a win. Nobody cares if you throw for 400 yards, 300. You're judged by, do you lead your team to a win? So I'm proud of him staying the course and overcoming that early on. He's going to have a lot of great days around here. And I would say the other night was a very good day, because he regrouped himself and was able to help lead our football team to a win.
Sure. And then to kind of flip fast forward, I guess, to this week, you've got Indiana in-state team. I know Ball State's won 3 straight. Mm-hmm. This would be 4. How big is this game, for your new coaching staff to play the IU in-state rival, and also just to look at 2-0 this year?
Well, great challenge for us. We love to be able to take on an in-state team going to IU. They had a big win to start off their season the other night at Florida International, and yes, Ball State has won the last 3, so we know that. Our guys know that we got to get back to having a great week of practice, and we will play on Saturday the way that we practice. There's no secret about that. So we're going to come back ready to go to work, have some good practices this week, and it'll carry over to the field for us on Saturday. But it's developing that mindset again that we can go out and we can compete with anybody.
Coach, how big is the IU game from a recruiting standpoint? Do you look at it kind of in that lens?
No question about it. You always use this as an opportunity in-state recruiting-wise. You know, we want to try to get as many kids as we can from not only Indiana, but around the Midwest. I've been very impressed with Indiana high school football, and this is a chance for us to go play at IU where, you know, we're talking to a lot of the same players and have an opportunity for us to take advantage of, you know, we go to IU, we play well, we get a win. That's going to help us from a recruiting standpoint. So absolutely, I think it's a big game for us recruiting-wise.
Have you had a chance to watch their film from Thursday night? And if so, what kind of things stood out about their win?
Well, I have watched them. They had a great overall performance. I think they're very balanced on the offensive side of the ball. They run it well, they throw it well, and defensively they had a great night the other night. You know, they got a new defensive coordinator that's, you know, in their building for the first time this year, and they played a great. They had a great effort the other night. They had 3 takeaways, so it's going to be a good football team. It's going to be a physical game for us. We're up for that. We know that. We'll have a game plan in place, and we'll have a great week of practice and get ready to go.
Coach, talking to your running backs a little bit, you had a pretty nice mix of carries between the 3 guys. What did you see from those guys, and what do you see from that group moving forward?
Well, I said from day one when I got here, I love the running back group overall, and all those guys are going to have an opportunity to get some touches throughout the course of the game because it's a good group and they practice hard. They're always ready to work. So you go through the game, and you know, although James had 160 at the end of the night, Darian was at 93 yards. Teddy you had a touchdown the other night, and listen, those 3 guys and 4 because Malik is going to continue to be in there. We got a good running back group, and we got to put those guys in position to have success and to make sure they get touches.
And what have you got to work on this week? What have you got to do to kind of avoid that slow start that you had last week in the game in Indiana?
Every game's different, so you just go back to work and you have a great week of practice, and you just try to build on the confidence that you were able to generate from the other night. And that's no different for us. We look at the game tape, and the first thing is, yes, it's a win, but we got several things that we can clean up on our end to become better and to continue to emphasize attention to detail, doing things the right way. And every week's a new week. It's a clean slate. You put a game plan in, you practice your tail off, and you get ready to go for Saturday.
Coach, this was with Western Michigan's win at Northwestern, it was the 11th straight year that a MAC team has beaten a Big Ten team. How do you spin that when other programs in the MAC have success against the Big Ten, and spin that to your favor in recruiting and selling the experience of Ball State and playing in the MAC?
Well, I just think the Mid-American Conference overall is a great conference that, you know, many say doesn't get enough credit. And if you just look at some of the things you just mentioned, Tom, with having wins against Big Ten opponents every year and other conferences as well, it's a great conference. It's a great conference from top to bottom. Yes, I try to encourage all the kids when I talk to them in recruiting that, you know, bigger is not always better. You know, going to a place that's a right fit and feeling like it's the right atmosphere for you, you can accomplish all your goals. And it's a great opportunity for us to go against a Big Ten school that's an in-state school where we're both, you know, competing and talking to some of the same players in recruiting and trying to make a statement here. You know, listen, I have respect for everybody, but we fear nobody. And, you know, it's a great opportunity for us here to go take on Indiana.
All right, and Jordan Williams, I guess, made the practice squad for the New Orleans Saints. Is that a legitimate route to the NFL? And what will he have to do to maybe elevate himself and make the full-time roster?
Well, there's no better example than Willie Snead. Willie was on the practice squad with the New Orleans Saints before he got his opportunity, and you just have to continue to go out and practice, stay ready, and when your number's called, you got to make the most of it. Willie did that. Yes, it's a great opportunity with a great organization for Jordan as he, you know, is signed to the practice squad. And the great thing about him is when you try to look at all the preseason games, the first thing I look at is not if he had any catches. I want to see if he had any tackles on special teams, because that's the number one way in order to make a team in the NFL. When you're, you know, a receiver that's on a practice squad, you got to be a great special teams player and a contributor in order to have a chance to get on the field and then eventually get some offensive reps.
Coach, after Teddy's touchdown, saw you chest bump a couple guys on the sideline and show a lot of emotion. How important is it not only for your players but also for your coaching staff to show, you know, positive or negative emotion throughout the game?
Well, that's who I am. You know, I got to be who I am, and the coaches all, you know, we're the same way. We want to have fun. It's supposed to be fun, what you do. You know, it can't be one of those things that you don't have a time or a place to enjoy it with your players. And I almost went down on one chest bump with Steve Bell. He almost got the better of me on that one. So thank God I stayed on my feet. But it's a fun game. You know, you can't have fun with your guys and you can't enjoy what you do, then, you know, I can't visualize or I can't think of doing it if you're not going to have some fun while you're at it.
Kind of speaking to that, one thing I noticed on the sideline was that there's a lot more dancing now than there was a year ago with the players and the coaches and everything. How do you, and you've said before that you guys want to play with swagger. How do you balance playing with swagger, and then also you mentioned earlier you were pleased with the level of discipline you saw. How do you kind of strike that balance of discipline and swagger with your football team?
I think that's the way you practice. You know, you can't tolerate things like that in practice. I mean, from a discipline standpoint, you have attention to detail on the snap count, about pre-snap penalties. You have to emphasize it and make it a big deal in practice when we try to do that. But yet, yes, there is a fine line there, and I've encouraged all our guys. Gone are the days where we score a touchdown and spring ball and everybody runs to the end zone or we spike it. That was fun then, but that's not obviously something we can do now in the game. So, you know, I'm okay with guys. You know, I tell them all the time, I want you into it on the sideline. If something happens for your teammate and there's a big play, it's okay to get excited. Now, you got to continue to stay back and out of the white so that we don't get in the way of the officials when they're trying to maneuver the sideline and do their job. So thank God the other night we were able to do that. But it's not, you know, I want our guys into the game on the sideline. And you work too hard. You got one opportunity at the end of the week to put all the preparation that week of practice that you put in on display. And you're supposed to have some fun while you do that.
Going back to Riley real quick, you mentioned you were pleased with the way he kind of responded to adversity in that game. What's the biggest area, though, that you want to see him improve from now to the end of the season?
Well, I think getting off to a good start for any quarterback is critical. You know, you want to make sure that next game out, you want to try to make sure he gets off to a good start and kind of gets, you know, everybody's got butterflies when they start a game, whether they're honest with you or not. They have butterflies when they start a game, so we got to get him settled in to the course of the game and just go out and execute. You know, it's not, you play the way you practice, and we're not going to give him something throughout the course of a game play-wise that he can't handle. So just getting off to a good start and relaxing and having some fun playing the game, that's the key for Riley. And listen, he's going to have some great days around here. And listen, the other night is a great day because it was a W, and he did his job leading our football team.
With Corey and the ankle that he had taped up, how judicious did you guys kind of have to be in picking your spots on when to throw him in the huddle?
Yeah, it was a little bit of an unknown going into the game the other night with Corey because he'd been battling, you know, his ankle, but that guy's tough as nails. And he stepped up big time the other night, made some key plays in some critical situations, and you love to see that out of him. So he made it through the game the other night without really having any kind of setback. So I've had a couple days off here now where he's been getting some treatment and all that, and we expect him to be full speed ahead here, which is exciting.
On the topic of injury, Armani went down and I think came back in. Is he okay, though, and what was he kind of dealing with?
Yeah, he is. And I was trying to, when I went to see him on the sideline, you know, sometimes when something like that happens, you get flipped in the air like that and you kind of land awkward, it scares you as much as anything else. So I was trying to I went over to see him, say, hey, you okay? Did it scare you? Did it scare you to shake you up a little bit? Now, yes, he tweaked his ankle, but he's going to be fine. He'll be back out on the practice field when we get to work. And you know, it's one of those things that probably just kind of shook him when it happened, but he's going to be just fine.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Corey Hall. I know he got the targeting call the other night, and this would have been his first full game since getting hurt last year against VMI. So have you had a chance to talk to him? Is he like going crazy not having a full game under his belt yet?
Great. I mean, Corey's been great, man. It happened. That's not who he is, though. He's an aggressive guy that made an aggressive mistake. Wasn't intentional. You know, the rule is what it is, and they looked at it and they determined that he was going to have to sit out. So he'll miss, you know, obviously the first half of this game. But that's not Corey Hall. Corey works hard every day. It's so important to him playing the game of football. He's had it taken away from him a year ago with his injury. So that's not who he is, and I don't really have to have a discussion with him. He just, you know, he made an aggressive mistake. It'll run its course. It is what it is, and he'll be right back out there with us. But that's not who Corey Hall is, and he had a great effort, big time, all night. You know, he's a guy that flies around the field. Had a big interception the other night, and he's got a lot of good football ahead of him here.
Sure. And then I wanted to ask about Malik, too. I know you mentioned that he got some reps. He's going to be a guy moving forward to get some reps. But, you know, you've talked a lot about the running back group, too. You have 3 guys who are experienced and, you know, that you're going to look to do big things for the team. So what was the kind of rationale with Malik in trying to get him on the field this year and trying to get him some time?
Well, because he's an explosive player, and you want to get, you know, the ball in the hands of your explosive players and give them a chance to do something that fits their skill set. Malik's been very good in practice, so You know, he's a guy that, you know, it's a running back by committee approach, and just so happened the other night he was in the game early, and then he didn't see didn't see time in the second half. But more than anything else, the three guys that were in there were kind of hot, and you kind of stick with the hot hand there. And listen, Malik's one of those guys, great attitude. He'll be ready to go back to work, and you know, he's kicking himself just about having, you know, he had a touch there, the chance on a screen and dropped it, but we moved right past that and we'll be fine.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Coach.
Right. Thank you guys.